We're going to talk about the association.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you don't want this on your chair.
What do y'all think? What do y'all think about LeBron James' comments about when he was asked Anthony Davis coming to the Lakers? He was quoted by saying, "That would be amazing."
I think that his quote was taken out of context, but I can tell you this right now: if Anthony Davis was coming to my team, I would think that was amazing. So,
Even with his history of injury.
I think that that's a good question.
I mean, I call him the glass man. I think that's
You
goes without
Davis?
saying. Davis, yeah. You
That's
sneeze
fair
and he's
enough.
heading to the locker room.
Well, I mean, we
That's
talked.
fair enough.
You got to think about LeBron James' perspective on things. He's got to be starting to realize that what we talked about on the last show.
Yeah,
that
he can't do it on his own.
and nobody wants to come and play with him. So if he can get a guy the caliber of Anthony Davis, he's gonna.
He needs to.
I don't know that LeBron James would have made these kind of comments this early a few years ago about the potential for a guy coming to his team, right? That seemed like out of character for him a bit.
The Celtics have better pieces to offer for
And I think that
Anthony Davis.
eventually he's going to end up there.
So the scenario would look like Hayward, let's see, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown.
You're saying that would be the trade?
Right, that would be the trade.
For Anthony Davis?
For Anthony Davis, yeah.
I think that they would do their best to try to retain.
One of Tatum, probably.
In my opinion, the most important pieces to retain are going to be Irving, Hayward, and Davis, and try to move some of those other younger pieces.
So
and try to retain
for
those
Danny
three.
Ainge, there's really only one untouchable on that team, and that's Kyrie. They're going to do everything they can to keep him in Boston.
I would think though that Tatum over Hayward would be someone I would rather have on my team.
I wouldn't dispute that.
And you're probably going to need to include Hayward to make the money match. For
Well, we need to see.
So Davis is in a.
We haven't even seen the Celtics
He's in a
for a full
contract
season
year.
with Hayward yet. So
Yeah.
No, just I'm only saying that if I had a choice between the two, I would rather keep Tatum. He's younger. He doesn't have the injury history,
So that
which was pretty gruesome.
this
yeah,
scenario,
yeah, that's
but
true.
he played. he played lights out last season.
this scenario would have to go down mid-season, and so the reason for that is Anthony Davis is a free agent. So the only way that you would be able to get him now, before the Lakers, is by coming off of those pieces.
by trading.
Right.
That's
Otherwise,
assuming that he's willing to sign with the Lakers, though.
exactly.
Right?
Well, so
that's an assumption.
that it's bigger than an assumption, right? If you're the GM of the Lakers, you're going to be giving up, a boatload, just like the Celtics are. So are you willing to wager, Anthony Davis re-signing with you on half of your young core?
I think that the Lakers are a heck of a lot more likely now that Paul George re-signed in Oklahoma City. They thought they could wait that thing out and just get that guy to come there, and now they've had one
they're
miss.
More willing to make that.
I think there's a
move.
bit more of a sense of urgency because LeBron James doesn't get younger every year.
And it goes back to what you were saying last show, which is basically if they miss on Davis, who are they really going to get to come out there and play
It's
with?
going to be like Lillard.
They're going to give up anything and everything to get Davis, to
Lillard's
try to
pretty
get Davis.
He is.
They're going to make a shot at. They're going to make an offer at all these free agents, including Kemba. Kemba Walker's been a big name that's come up in a lot of different conversations.
He's a unique player.
I like Kemba.
He's a
He's a
scorer.
unique player in the league that has just elevated his game
He is one of the best scorers
well
in the
into
league.
his career, and he really has
No, he's
rededicated
nice.
himself to
Look,
his craft.
he's
yeah.
earned it. He's due. He's due for a big payday.
He's-
I will say, I enjoy seeing some of the smaller markets with some of the bigger stars. Milwaukee, for example. I like. It's refreshing to see some of the the smaller market teams. You don't need to see in LA and in New York every year. I'm tired of seeing it.
You know what I heard the other day that I thought was interesting? There was a trade at one point recently that the Lakers were potentially involved in, right? And then it shifted.
They
because
try to get Ariza,
They try to get Ariza.
and they
Whoever the player was that was going to end up in Utah, one of the just in passing comments I heard, is that that player shares an agent with LeBron James, and that Rich Paul was not going to allow his client
Phoenix. To go to
Phoenix?
Right.
Rich Paul was not going to allow his client to be traded to that team,
Right.
and therefore that put a big
That
hamstrung the deal, right?
That's Contavious Caldwell Pope, I believe. So
Okay.
KCP has the same agent as LeBron
So
James.
has Rich Paul's his agent, and one of the things that potentially killed that Ariza to Lakers deal was Rich Paul's impact on the NBA landscape, meaning that like he wants to pick and choose where his players end up. That's too much power, and LeBron James caused the Cavs to overpay J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson.
Yeah,
Now
in
he's
terms of
potentially
Thompson,
allowing his
yeah.
agent to block a trade for somebody like Trevor Ariza just because one of the guys in the deal is his client and he doesn't want him to end up in basketball purgatory. So is LeBron James, he's been shooting franchises in the foot as he leaves them, in his wake. Is he now shooting his own current organization in the foot by allowing Rich Paul to have that much power? Like, that's crazy and detrimental to a team that's already going to have trouble putting pieces around LeBron
I thought
James.
at the end of the day, I thought the deal that was going to get done was between Memphis, Phoenix, and
Washington.
The original
That's
conversation,
Washington,
that was the
right?
secondary deal
And
after
then-
Ariza to the Lakers fell through.
Right.
So then,
Ariza to
so wait,
Lakers
so hold on.
fell
So
apart because of
Phoenix had a deal
Because
fall
of Rich
through.
Paul, right?
Rich Paul. Correct.
So Phoenix had a deal for Ariza fall through to the Lakers. Then they had a deal fall through with Memphis and Washington.
Well, that was a
And then they ended up
clusterfuck.
going
Because
heads
they
up
thought
with
there were two guys
Washington.
with the same last name on
Two
the
guys
team.
with the same last name, and the owner signed off on it, not knowing it was the wrong player.
This sounds like
It's so bush
maybe
league,
someone
it's
had
fucking
buyer's
amateur
regret.
Yeah,
Someone
buyer's
may have had
remorse
buyer's
at the
regret and
end.
used that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Like last year when Hugh Jackson tried to trade for A.J. McCarron
And they
from
they
Cincinnati,
didn't
and then
even file
Sashi, who had made dozens
file
of
the
trades,
paperwork.
forgot how to file paperwork with the league, or did he sabotage that trade because we were giving up a second and a third round pick when Garoppolo went for just a third? Anyways, I feel like maybe they sabotaged that deal on purpose because they had buyer's remorse.
Yeah, I just feel like that
Maybe.
whole Suns trade over the last couple weeks has been a huge, basketball purgatory. It's a very kind way to say that organization is a hot mess, and why would anyone want to be a part of
Well, or maybe God just loves the Suns and doesn't want to see Trevor Ariza in another jersey. So God is just gonna.
Well,
natural
Trevor Ariza played his-
it?
disaster,
So does Trevor
natural
Ariza?
disaster. Guys with the same last name.
Trevor Ariza
at
played
some
his
point-
first game tonight with the Washington Wizards and went off.
Oh, did the trade end up going through?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because so Memphis got dropped out from the trade, and it ended
Yeah.
up being heads up.
I
Yeah,
never
it was
knew
a
that
heads up
trade.
deal.
Yeah, heads up
So God is
Washington.
not a Suns fan.
Yeah, he's
maybe
not.
God's just
He's
a
an
Wizard.
Ariza fan.
But no, the Suns
God
got,
loves
I
Trevor
think the
Ariza.
Suns-
He's like, I'm
So maybe
sending
that
you
should be the name
back.
of our podcast. God loves Trevor Ariza.
I think the Suns got Kelly Oubre out of the deal. I don't
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
did.
know that.
They
That's
got
really
Kelly
bad,
Oubre,
yeah.
and again, cut Kelly Oubre. All right, because it all goes back to the Suns being
Wait.
purgatory.
Right.
Okay.
Kelly Oubre.
And Kelly Oubre belongs on a playoff team. So, and this
I
is
didn't
what's
know
Can
that
we-
this trade went through.
Can we
though.
go
That's
to
new. This is news to me.
Rockets?
he could go anywhere. This is that's
Are
what's
we
okay.
trying to get
There's
Kelly
one
Oubre?
more core player that they're going to cut to. There was another piece in that deal. Another ex-Wizard went over to the Suns, who's going to get cut.
So they got Oubre and another guy. And they're cutting both of them.
Right, cutting both of them to allow them to sign with playoff contenders. That's the way it should be, because if you're a veteran, okay, a league veteran, and this is how the deal worked, all right, because he was a veteran, he's allowed to get cut like that. Whereas if you don't meet the CBA veteran requirements, you're not getting cut.
So how much was
You're
Phoenix
stuck
paying?
in purgatory.
Basketball's not my where I spend most of my time, like watching and researching. Why were they so desperate to get out from under Ariza? Like, how much did they overpay?
think
It
paid
wasn't
$20
to get out of
million.
under Ariza. It was, I think Ariza wanted out of there, right?
So
So
they
you got to look.
terminated that.
Yeah, you got to look at the situation. He
Okay.
signed there in the off season, okay?
A $20 million deal. I mean,
Yeah, I
Yeah, so he
remember.
signed there in the off season. He got
Right.
paid.
How's Washington fitting that salary into their?
So
talk about purgatory.
we need to-
Their
we
salary
need to
cap
talk about-
purgatory over there.
this was sent to our group thread earlier in the week. This is Greta Rogers destroying Suns owner
Right.
Robert Sarver.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, at
The
a
old
town hall
lady.
meeting. And this lady in a vacuum solidifies Suns fans all over probably the nation.
There's
right?
a backstory here. She's apparently super intelligent, and she goes to every city council meeting and just wreaks havoc on everyone all
Well,
the
let
time.
me tell you, she
Like, this is
killed
not
it.
an isolated incident.
She killed it right here. Well,
Yeah.
you gotta
This is
look.
not her first rodeo.
It's
It's
not,
just-
well,
Her last
rightfully
comment
so. I mean,
is
like,
something that I think every single tax-paying American in a major city has thought in the back of their mind.
the Suns will not be in Phoenix in the next 5 years. They will either be in Las Vegas or Seattle. That is where they're going to be. This is Greta Rogers.
You're gonna play it.
Server has done nothing to improve this team
She sounds hot.
in the 14 years he's owned it. He's never
I mean,
funded or bought,
she's experienced.
paid for two
Yeah.
or three key players, which make any sports team, professional
She's
sports team,
mature.
successful or on the road to success. He's so tight, he squeaks when he walks.
I mean, is this lady?
Oh, you didn't get to the best part. No, I mean, at the
He's
end.
tight,
Look at the end. She.
he squeaks
All
when he
right, sorry.
walks.
Let's finish. Let's let her finish.
And
She's
you have
amazing.
been negotiating with this kind of person? Shame on each and all of you. And upon you, Ed, I thought your principles were higher and better than
She
this.
calls Ed Emmett
We
out.
are not in the business of paying taxes to support private enterprise,
That's it.
and especially not an entertainment enterprise. They
That's
can
it.
support themselves or fail on their own lack of diligence.
Taxpayer money to support an entertainment
That wasn't even the last thing
enterprise
she said, was it?
for billionaires, right? I mean, literally, these dudes are billionaires, and we're giving them money to make their billions, and it's coming out of my tax dollar. I mean,
And then
dude,
you gotta
I
pay
would-
to go to the games. You gotta pay a seat license.
No, dude. I mean, you
You
gotta
gotta
pay
pay
$9 for a fucking beer. Look, I think that Fertitta is a Houston legend, right? But dude, if you can afford to drop $2 billion without any other investors, you have too much damn money, right? I should not have to pay for your arena. That's it. That's all I'm saying about it. Look, Mark Davis and the Oakland Raiders, completely different story, right? That dude's not a billionaire owner, right? His team is worth $1 billion, but he doesn't have $1 billion.
Right.
Tillman Fertitta has 4.
The key to not drinking $9 beers, by the way, is plastic flasks. You can avoid that. Insider
Life hack.
life hack. You gotta
Binoculars.
life hack.
Go a
You
long
gotta
way.
put the plastic flask up your ass before you fill it.
Like the
You
old
can't,
prison
it's
water.
not gonna go up there after you fill it. You put it up there first, and then fill it. And
So
then
it's
your
not
buddies
just-
can tap.
It's not just the Suns. The Coyotes are on their way out too. So that has to do with the arena
is
deal.
it-
So
is it
Phoenix is in a lot of
Phoenix-
trouble
Phoenix
with
is
their
great
sporting
right now.
franchises right now. Thank God that,
It's a shame.
that
It's
the
a
Cardinals
great,
just
it's a
got a new
great place to
stadium
go.
because
Wasn't this the hockey team that the
Yeah, in
Houston
fact,
had?
I believe so. Yeah, that's what Fertitta's talking about.
yeah. So Fertitta is going to basically acquire. Like, he's going to buy that franchise from, the current owner.
And move him here.
Move him here.
In 5 years, no, it might be
That
too
won't be
hot to
5
live
years.
in Phoenix, anyways.
That's
So
going to be
maybe-
in the next year or two.
Right.
Their arena lease runs out at the end of next season.
Look, I don't want to be called the Coyotes. That is the Spurs mascot, and I'm not really trying to
Yeah, no,
get
I
down
mean-
like
I think
that.
they'll probably rename the team.
I think they're
Yeah,
better.
tweet us. What are some good NHL team names?
For Texas.
for
What,
Houston.
what screams Houston and hockey at the same
Yeah,
time?
because if your in-state rivals, the Dallas Stars,
Well, what's the guy's name that makes the grills?
Donnie,
the Paul
Dang, Dang,
Johnny Dang?
Johnny Dang.
The Houston Johnny Dangs, right?
The Johnny
Because think
Dangs.
about hockey players
They
don't have teeth.
So just a
Right.
bunch of blingers out there.
The Houston Johnny
Hey,
Dangs. The Houston
post-game-
Dangs.
He
Post-game
ices out
editing.
grills.
He can ice out
He
every
ices out grills.
player
Yeah.
on the starting front
Dude,
line
I mean, I'm seeing
for the
I'm
Houston
seeing-
Dangs.
I'm seeing
They sell Vietnamese food at the arena. It's pho.
Cup of noodle, which is not Vietnamese, but we'll take it, right?
Look.
I'm trying to get
The Houston Dangs.
the giveaway, the grill
Dang,
giveaway.
did you see that go? Dang, man.
Hey, Houston Dangs, if you're looking to sponsor a below average sports podcast that may not see a third episode.
Let me just tell you.
For a below average jeweler.
Tillman
The
does
Houston
not
Dangs.
leave Johnny Dang's grills.
The Dangs.
The dang.
Dang, did you see
Dang,
that?
man.
I think we
Dang.
might have
This
something.
dang
yeah.
hockey team, I don't know how to tell you.
Yeah.
A caricature of Paul Wall could be their mascot,
Yeah, just
Hey,
grills would be the
Paul
opening
Paul
lineup
Wall
theme
and a
song.
fucking fuzzy head, man.
right?
Bobblehead night, it would just be a grill.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
and
I think we got this.
I want to be there on the giveaway.
The key
night.
is that in hockey, none of those guys have teeth. That's why this works.
That's a great.
Right.
That's a great
The Houston Dangs.
stereotype.
The Houston Dangs. People are going to wonder, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He keeps trying to tell me a story about the Houston Dangs. And he's really talking about the Phoenix Coyotes.
Oh.
You know, like, we don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
about
Right.
You're not a hockey fan.
Oh, you don't know about the Dangs?
That's why. Yeah.
They're not here yet, but I mean, they're on their
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
man.
They are on their way.
You're not a
So if
hockey
you hear
fan.
someone
That's
talking
fine.
about
It's cool.
the Dangs,
It's cool. You're so tight you squeak when you walk.
Rumor Mill has it.
Listen,
You don't have to be that tight, guys.
Listen, you don't want to see Fertitta on $1 billion buyer lowballing people, right?
Well,
That's kind of how he got to be where he is, though.
yeah, you don't pay your bills.
He kind of had a dad who had a little bit of change. So that always helps.
That's part of the story.
Like when you
It's part
come
of it.
from a restaurant family and you have restaurants and
It's definitely part of it.
look, he like Trump started with a paltry $10 million.
Yeah, exactly. Alone.
Is that?
Let me tell you something. Mattress Mac, that dude started with a $10,000 one, and he did it right.
Mattress
That
Mac
dude-
started with 1 kilo
Yeah, when you're
of
flipping
Colombia's,
blow.
Listen,
Yeah.
listen, he
of
didn't-
Colombia's
he didn't-
finest.
He didn't.
That's what it started
he didn't
with.
sleep for a year, but he got it done.
Yeah, no, trust me.
After a year of not sleeping, you would want the finest mattress
Yeah,
that money could
exactly.
buy.
That's- he was like,
That's
you know
why-
what? You know what I'm
that's
gonna
the
start
foundation
selling?
That's the foundation. for-
Heroin? No, mattresses.
I didn't.
No way.
Hey,
I
hey
didn't
guys,
sleep
get
for
in
a
here. The
whole
guy who
year.
never sleeps is gonna start selling mattresses.
I had to sleep for a whole year, and then I lay down on a Tempur-Pedic mattress. But I want the night will deliver
God,
tonight.
what a staple. There's gonna be a fucking bronze statue of that man around the city somewhere.
Next thing you know,
Dude,
the
I
chick
want
that
him-
never eats is gonna open
Yeah.
a restaurant.
I want him to buy it.
She opened a buffet.
I want him to buy a
Oh, he
team
can
and
eat.
open up an arena and have
That's funny.
Tempur-Pedic seats and shit.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
You never know, you know? It's like you just gotta get your first
That's gonna be
kilo and then
basketball.
take it from there.
All right, maybe he can own the XFL team or something.
So I don't think we got far enough into the NBA. We digressed.
No, we're not. We're
And
not
then
done
we
with the
digress
NBA. We're
from
not done with
digressing.
the NBA. So real
I
quick,
saw you had that
Slippery
KCP article up, right?
Yeah, well, that's the Rich Paul
real
Right. I
quick.
think that's a huge.
confirmation. And it was KCP.
Rockets
Yeah.
on a 4-game winning streak. The Beard is playing like an MVP, out of his fucking mind.
So
And he is out of his fucking mind.
He
so that makes
is,
sense.
he is out
It's the
of
perfect-
his mind.
It's the perfect statement.
But he's playing like he's out of his mind. I mean,
Yeah.
he's balling.
I have a nice friendly wager with a buddy of mine that involves the Rockets and Lakers. Who finishes with a better record at the end of the season? It's currently at even money. The bet, not the records. Lakers lost tonight.
Did you make a recent bet about which one of those teams is going to be seeded higher? Is this a separate bet?
This
Right.
is a separate bet.
This is a separate bet.
This is the,
We're throwing all the eggs in the.
yeah, no. Who finishes with a better record? That's seated higher.
Okay, so that's the bet that you have
Right. That is the bet.
with he whose we shall not name.
Yeah, we definitely should not name him.
Why are we naming them?
I don't
It's
know.
too soon.
I was-
It's too soon.
Too soon?
Coming soon.
Yeah, I
Coming
feel like
soon
in a
to an
future-
episode near
Yeah,
you.
I feel like in a future episode or two, you might be
Man, I feel
joining
like,
us.
I feel like I know who we're talking about.
You know
and
exactly
I don't think
who we're
there's-
talking
I
about.
don't think there's any better explanation as to how you can justify taking 7 unders in a row.
For the record,
Hey, for the record, he didn't take 8 unders in a row because he didn't get his bet in on time.
yeah, exactly. Started before.
I'll have you know it was supposed to be 8.
That's the greatest.
For the record, I have the Lakers, and I have a Rockets tattoo on my back. So,
You hope you're wrong, but
So wait a second.
I
you can't
So
always
then
bet
you
with your
hedged,
heart.
you hedged
Actually, you should
your
never bet
bet
with
that
your
you
heart.
made in here.
Yeah.
Right? Against somebody else. You went against your bet that you made in here.
What bet did you make in here?
My bet in here was KD going to the Lakers.
Right.
It's still somewhat of a hedge,
That's
right? Because they're both for a hunt. So if I end up pushing on them both, then I'll be
You'll still be up 50.
Yeah, I'll still be.
Cocksucker.
God, Kentucky math is that? Holy shit.
I'll still be up.
So what about what we were talking about before we went live?
So Drew brought up a very interesting thing today, and I had to rush to Google to confirm this. So the NBA is talking about a 4-point line, right?
It's being talked about. Maybe the NBA is not talking about it yet, but people are.
This
is the first step to making things come to fruition.
The
You start a
Globetrotters.
conversation about
The
it.
Globetrotters are the
Globetrotters.
first. I've got it right here, guys. The Globetrotters are the first team. They introduced the 4-point line in 2016. So.
And look, so there are some NBA teams that in their practice facilities have incorporated the 4-point line into what they're doing, amongst other things, to what they're calling it gamified practice. Look, a 4-point line, in my opinion, it is the next evolution, and it's got to be the next evolution. When you look at just the way players warm up today, the distance that they're draining them from, and look, they're making these shots. It's not like that heave half-court shot that you used to see in the mid-'90s. These dudes are lining up and taking a shot. It's not a prayer. These guys are shooting like, it's kind of like the way I heave it up from 3. I'm hoping it goes in. These dudes are shooting from half court, and they're making it.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of it. I wish it was already implemented.
And look, why shouldn't they make a 4-point shot from half court? If Joe Schlub can come out of the stands at halftime and make a $10,000 shot, why shouldn't these millionaires be making that shot?
It's a good point. I actually think, as I read this article right here, that maybe the Globetrotters did create the 4-point shot, but we can look into that later.
Yeah,
Because that might have been
that's totally fine, right?
Sure
Even if
there's-
they did.
It would be an interesting anecdote if the 4-point line ever came into existence.
And it was created
And
by
then-
the Globetrotters?
And the Globetrotters.
Dude, Jackie Moon invented the alley-oop, so why couldn't the Globetrotters invent the...
Jackie Moon!
What was the song from that movie? What was this?
Love me, sexy.
It's funny. That's so funny that you reference that movie, because when you talked about a fan coming out at halftime, I immediately think of Kelly from the Bad News Bears, all stoned out, falling asleep and making that shot, and then Jackie Moon doesn't have the money to pay him. Remember, he shows up like 3/4 of the way through the movie. He's like, I can't cash this thing anywhere, man. He's like, it's a big check. You got to go to a bigger bank. That's real. I didn't even think about that, man.
The best is the bear just running around.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
But funny, or good semi-pro.
So the 4-point line would open up not just an additional point per play, but it would create different spacing on the floor. So, and what that spacing would do would open up the floor. What I'm getting at is higher scoring games, right? And I'm entertained by high scoring games. We talked about it earlier.
I welcome it.
Offset. It was basically at the beginning of the season this year. There were extremely high scoring games, and it wasn't sustainable, but it could have been a preview of things to come.
Well, and this might be the chicken or the egg, right? Because there's already different spacing on the floor because of where these guys are shooting from long range. So maybe the different spacing will lend itself to the 4-point line, just like the 4-point line will in turn lend itself to the different spacing. So maybe it's just like the right time based on how the game has evolved.
It could just be a placebo thing if you see a line on the court versus if there's no line at all. I'm not going to go out there. He's not going to make that. If I see that he's on that arc, the 4-point arc,
Yeah, you
I'm gonna have to go out there and defend him.
defend it, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
Or if it's such a low percentage shot, do you even send a defender out there?
Well, and that's just it. I think what analytics has taught us, right, was that what you thought was a low percentage shot and then a 3-point shot, because of the reward aspect of it, right, even at a lower percentage, it's worth more than a higher percentage up close shot.
So
now you add
once you
that,
run the analytics.
yeah,
right,
once you add that extra point into it, and again, right, you're talking about someone like Steph Curry or James Harden who routinely hits these like ridiculously long range 3-pointers, where this is part of their game anyway, right? They're already shooting from back there. They're just
which is creating different spacing.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is they put a line on the court that's gonna rapidly escalate the different spacing that's already beginning to appear. So it seems like it would be the right time. For
In that
this to come
same
into
story, the
existence.
Milwaukee Bucks had put the squares in their practice facility,
Right.
and that's to show their own players in practice where they're supposed to be
to start every play.
to start every play. And if you look at where that tape is, it's maybe a foot or a foot and a half behind the arc.
It's
or
the Bruce Bowen corner 3.
Right, and so when you have positions 1 through 5 spaced out, if I'm playing ISO, y'all are in a lot of, or I'm in a lot of trouble playing ISO defense, right?
Right.
If I'm playing man-to-man, that just opens it up for someone like a Giannis to just drive the lane on anybody. So, it
Yeah.
could
And
be
as
a
that
great-
article's pointed out, they've created the spacing on the floor so players know where to get set, and probably not coincidentally, they're leading the league in
Yeah,
scoring.
leading the league in scoring.
No,
Love it.
and it was all about creating that space to where his unique slashing skill set that's basically unstoppable. I mean, you can't defend that guy because no matter where you're standing, he can keep the ball away from you, right?
Right.
You can't defend that dude. Once he starts going to the basket, he's gonna get there, and he doesn't have to be close to just lay it up. He's ridiculous in his dimensions, right? What they were able to do with spacing, has turned them into probably one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference.
And potentially have developed a formula that could neutralize the Warriors. We have
Exactly.
not seen that yet,
No,
but potentially.
They've split the season so far. They played each other twice. They're both 1-1 against each other. It's a great.
Both home court wins, right?
Yeah. No. Both away.
Interesting.
Really?
So yeah. So
That's
Any of
interesting.
them
Milwaukee, Milwaukee did blow them out in Golden State, and vice versa happened. It was about 18 points or 15 points.
Was the Milwaukee win during the stretch when Steph was out?
Yes.
Okay. So right
Good point.
then that
All good
discounts,
points, right.
yeah, that kind of discounts the Milwaukee win. At least as far as what can you tell from that win?
We're gonna, come playoffs, we're gonna be having this conversation. Did that happen before Cousins was inserted into the lineup?
Oh man, that's a whole
Versus-
other-
Right, so we'll be looking
That's a
back
whole
on
other
this
thing.
and a win that or loss that occurred today, wondering if how the team looks different.
So he'll be in there soon. He's been designated down at the G League. He's
Yeah,
been
I did see that this week.
he's been playing. He's
and maybe he'll just stay there. And we won't have to worry about it.
He's a G.
Yeah, he's a G for
Um,
sure. Probably
big
my
time.
favorite player in the NBA. And
So-
I know I'm in the minority there.
I
but
like
he's
him
just
also.
So awesome.
Last thing on that four-point play,
Just not respected enough.
the other night in the
He just got a technical foul while we were
Yeah, he's
talking.
I was
Just
talking
now,
about
just we
him.
said his name,
Yeah, they teed
and
him
some
up.
ref teed him up like
Yeah.
at a Chili's.
Did
He was
he
just
get
trying to get some
did
food.
he get ejected is the question.
Let me ask you this real quick before we move on. If you're the biggest badass at one of the most badass basketball schools, notoriously, Kentucky, right? So you're a badass coming from Kentucky, okay? And you get stuck on one of the worst teams in the NBA for not just 1 or 2 years, but
Like a
for
decade, yeah.
for basically your entire career. How upset would you be just at life?
Think
right?
about the psychology. Forget Cousins coming from Kentucky. Any player that makes it to the NBA has been on the best
Right.
team, and they've often been the best player. And then you arrive in the NBA or whatever professional sport that you arrive at.
They do
and
nothing
then you're on
to
the
put
worst.
pieces around you.
You're on the worst team in the league, and you're also on the worst team that you've ever been on the competitive
and,
scale.
and year after
So
year.
think about
not
the
just
psychology
1 year
of that.
or 2 years.
Thinking
but
about
year
winning,
after
winning,
year.
winning,
But-
and then suddenly you're on not only the worst team in the league, but you're on the worst
But
worst
he's still the
construction
best
of a
team on
you've
his
ever
team,
been on.
and he was still one of the best players at his position. In
Oh yeah, just tech him up, and besides that, like guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, so
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So they say that he has a bad attitude, but in all honesty, after so many years of the same thing over and over, nothing's changed.
It's
Your
hard to not-
attitude is going to start to deteriorate.
hard to not have
Right.
that attitude.
And, you know, he started lashing out and, you know.
Yeah, he
crap.
soured
Like,
on that situation. He soured on the franchise.
It's fine. You have to empathize with this guy and
Again,
understand,
right?
like, he
The
deserves
coaching
better than this shit.
carousel,
That's
Again,
my
the
take.
coaching carousel,
Right.
right? No consistent cohesion to his offensive unit. The rotating point guards. You look at when he prospered, right? He prospered with the year before Collison got hurt, and then the year he had where he had a good Rondo, right? Those are probably two of his best seasons, right? When he had someone else who can penetrate, get him the ball, play that two-man game.
I would love to see him
He
on
was
this
good.
year's Kings.
And it's
Kings
funny.
are very fun and exciting.
funny
But
to
you
think
know,
about-
if they didn't move him, they wouldn't be what they are right now.
It's funny
True.
to think about Cousins having such a bad attitude and carrying that stigma, and then think like, what would you take on your team? The way Cousins chose to lash out based on that bad attitude, or the shitty person that Jimmy Butler has proven to be twice, two different organizations, held him hostage, was awful to his teammates. Like, well, Jimmy Butler should be the one carrying that stigma of bad attitude, not Cousins, right? And so yet it's still Cousins.
Well, I'm always
Now,
going to have
I know-
Cousins back. So
I know, I
I'm
know Jimmy
biased
Butler
in
had
this.
the issue where he wanted to be out of Minnesota, but I don't think he had that with Chicago. Chicago traded him
No, I
because they were
think
making- they were
I
clearing
think
out.
once Thibodeau left Chicago, he soured and was not getting along. Was he there with Dwayne Wade? Am I misremembering that?
No, he was there with Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, that things got really nasty in the Chicago locker room before he went to Minnesota. I remember that for sure. It got really bad, and Butler.
Yeah,
I
I don't
believe was at
think
the
he
center.
wanted to be moved to Minnesota, which is, I think, at the end of the day, why he soured to Minnesota. He didn't want to be there.
We need to look back on at the end of his time in Chicago because I think he kind of acted like a dick. So maybe I'm misremembering that.
Well, Minnesota, I mean, they came out, you know, happy in the deal. They've been playing better. They went from 23rd in the league in defense or higher, and now they're 8th since Robert Covington's come over. I mean, the pieces that they added are good. But again, you know, it's a very interesting season. Going into the year,
Yeah.
you looked at it saying there's zero parity in this league. You could probably pinpoint to a science 1
And-
through 8 in both the East and the West, and it's just it hasn't shaken
Yeah,
out like
right
that.
now, it's like an 8-game stretch from 12-1 in the West. It's crazy how close it actually.
Who's the number
really
one
is.
team in the West right now? Does anyone know?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Golden State, and if it's not Golden State,
I don't see how it's gonna be the Lakers.
no.
the
Lakers are
the
fourth
Denver
or fifth.
Nuggets are currently sitting first place
Denver.
in the West. Denver Nuggets, and they're injury plagued right now. They let's see, they played tonight. They got a really good win against the Mavericks. That was a tough one.
Mavericks
So
are
I'm
playing
not-
pretty good this
I'm not
season.
going to go too far into this, but I just found an article from November of 2016. The title on Fox Sports is Jimmy Butler explains last year's locker room problems with the Bulls. So, 2 teams in a row, he was a dick. And yet, I bring up that he was a dick on the Bulls, and you don't even remember that.
No, I
And
know.
yet Cousins carries the
Well, he
stigma of
says there's
being...
locker room problems, but does it say he was the locker
Well,
room problem?
I like I said, I'm not going to go through and read this whole article and try to paraphrase it, but my memory of the situation is that there were some pretty significant divisions in that locker room, and that Jimmy Butler, according to half the guys there, was the problem.
So-
And that's my memory of the situation. So
Look, I mean, if you're playing somewhere and they sign a free agent legend to come in and play beside you, behind you, whatever, I mean, you're the man. They're your minutes. Now some dude's coming to take him. And really the only reason the Bulls even got Wade is because he's from Chicago. It wasn't a match made in heaven. It was a money grab on Wade's part. It wasn't a good fit. So, yeah, if you're Jimmy Butler and you're in your spot and they bring in some dude, I mean, I can see him not
I
getting
mean,
along.
with all due
I
respect to
don't know.
Butler, he's
I don't
definitely
know.
he's
we might be talking about this wrong. Wade might not have been there at all. It looks to me like the division was created Butler versus Derrick Rose and Noah.
I remember. So Wade
that's
was
the
in
dynamic.
Cleveland.
That's the issue that developed, and it was Jimmy Butler trying to take control of the team, and Derrick Rose and Noah resisting that.
Look, at the end of the day, so I wouldn't say Jimmy Butler was the problem there. I would say Derrick Rose.
I was going to say Jimmy Butler's been through his
shenanigans.
own set of adversity, even from an early age, and to get where he
Rose
is
was
today.
going through
I heard-
some shit
I heard,
medically.
I heard Sarah Silverman say this one-liner recently in a stand-up routine. She said, if you consistently have bad roommates, you're the bad roommate. Right? So that kind of feels like this. Kind of feels like that.
I don't know much about Joakim Noah, but I know the Knicks wanted nothing to do with him.
He's
very
revitalizing his career right now in Memphis
quickly.
after being let go from the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks wanted nothing to do with it.
He wanted nothing to do with them either.
And you look at Derrick Rose.
I don't
right,
know
and
if I
Derrick
disagree with him
Rose
too much. You look at that
little
clown
history's
that's running.
kinda sorted.
Derrick Rose was an MVP in Chicago. So if Jimmy Butler's coming in as the young player, trying to big dick everybody in that locker room, the veterans on that team are going to be like, slow down, little fucker. Like, this is our basketball team.
But look at what
You
happened
earn
to
your
Rose when
position.
Butler came through. His career just deteriorated. It
Right.
was partly due to injury after injury.
It was mostly due to injury after injury, and Derrick Rose Jimmy Butler was carrying the Bulls.
Right, they called him, his nickname was Jimmy Minutes.
Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy Minutes. He was playing almost 40 minutes a night. He was
But if
averaging
you-
the most minutes in the league.
There's
Jimmy Butler.
two ways that you can come into a situation like that, and then there are a bunch of little variations on that.
They
But
were
if
calling
you
him the best two-way player in the game. I mean, people go back and forth between him and Kawhi, right? But there was something about Jimmy Butler where even before he had the offensive explosion, he was widely regarded as one of the better wing defenders in the league.
could he have arrived in Chicago and exercised just a touch of humility amongst the veterans and ceded a little bit of.
I mean, it is what it is.
I
Proud
mean,
of Tom Ball,
how about
Texas.
respect?
You know what I'm saying?
How about being respectful of
Houston
a
Metro,
former MVP rather than coming in there and trying to big dick him? So
I'm
we
just
can look at
saying,
this from
look
two
at
different.
look at where both of those guys are now, and I'm saying, with all due respect to both of them, Jimmy did what he had to do, and he's in a better place
He's
right
been
now.
a problem on two different teams. Now,
I wouldn't say that
that's-
he's the problem. I don't.
we're gonna find out. If we're having this conversation a year from now about the locker room that's falling apart in Philadelphia, it's going to be very difficult to argue with the fact that if you've had multiple bad
So
roommates.
we don't even
I
have to
don't
wait that
know.
long. I can
Yeah.
tell you already, Joel Embiid is not happy at all since the Jimmy Butler trade. His minutes has dropped significantly. His shooting percentage is down. His rebounds are down. So we're talking about the best player on that team. It's not even a question.
Ben Simmons this year versus Ben Simmons last year, they're two different players.
Absolutely.
Right? They're two completely different players. And what he was able to do last year with the ball in his hand, he's not doing the same thing this year.
So
He
if
is
if a guy has the potential to be a cancer in the clubhouse, locker room, whatever sport you're talking about, first of all, in the NBA, with so many fewer guys,
Small teams, intimate teams.
a cancer,
Spreads
a guy that
quickly.
arrives and could completely divide those guys
Very
Yep.
quickly.
instantaneously if he's
Yeah.
got a bad attitude. And Jimmy Butler kind of comes across as pretty fucking cocky. He probably never exercises humility. He probably never cedes to another guy on the team. He probably walks and talks and swings his dick like he's Jimmy Buckets. And that's not necessarily the best way to achieve
his
success
rub in
and be a part of a
Minnesota-
team.
His rub in Minnesota was their focus on Cat, right? That was his rub with Minnesota, and that was his problem with the organization. Was their whole focus was on Karl Anthony Towns, right? He wants.
There
to
were
be
other
the-
guys there that were
he wa-
unhappy, though.
He
It
wants to
wasn't
be
just-
the man, right? He wants to be the man, and look, his game is such that he probably deserves to be the man somewhere, right? But how are you ever going to appease him? You're right. So how do you want that guy on your team?
The
How are
stories
you
that
gonna
came out
appease him?
about the way he behaved on the practice court with his teammates in Minnesota, right up against the bitter end. I think Jimmy Butler's the problem.
Did
But,
you
know,
see the Kobe Bryant quote about that practice?
No, what did he
Kobe
say?
Bryant said that's just another practice. So basically, Kobe would pull that shit every day. You know, So would you call Kobe a
So are
cancer?
we saying Jimmy Butler's Kobe Bryant?
Not yet.
Do you think Kobe Bryant came into the Lakers locker room when he was a rookie and tried to big dick everybody? Or do you think?
Hell yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. You're talking about a dude who cleared out Karl Malone so he could take Jordan off the dribble. Yeah.
At what point in his career did he do what you're describing?
His very first All-Star game.
No, before
Kobe's very first All-Star
when he was traded from Charlotte to L.A.
I'm telling you, I bet, much like he did with his game, I bet Kobe exercised maybe a bit more finesse in the way that he big dicked everybody on his team than the way that Butler has chosen to take a flamethrower to everybody in now two different organizations. I think we see this thing differently, and that's fine, but if he's now on a third team and there's now dissension in another locker room, how many more times does he have to...
But my point, I think there was dissension in that Philly locker room before he got there.
Okay.
Between?
Hey, we got a problem in our locker room. Bring me Jimmy Butler. We're gonna fix it right now. Well, that's not. That's
winning
the
fixes
worst.
everything.
I think
the worst.
I think
Winning
the
fixes
problem. I
everything.
think the problem in that locker room has to do with the number 2 pick in the draft. I can't remember that dude's name. He's so insignificant, right? The dude with the broken shot, right? I think
Markelle Fultz.
Markelle Fultz. So I think
He was the number 1 overall pick.
a lot of their brokenness inside of their organization and locker room have to do with that situation, the lack of productivity, the feeling of the waste of the player in the pick.
In his defense, his shot is not broken. He is suffering from. He was diagnosed with an ailment.
Yeah, some kind of neck shoulder.
It's a nerve. He's got a nerve
Correct.
issue that is preventing him from actually playing basketball. So it could actually end his career. So you got to understand, this is the number 1 overall pick.
But they have
Have
so,
you ever
they've
heard
had
this
so
before?
many.
So is Anthony Bennett.
They've had so many.
Yeah, we got
Hey,
Too soon.
Hey,
Yeah,
man.
too soon.
I'm just saying,
Hey.
people miss on the number 1 pick all the time.
No, they don't.
So
Just Cleveland. Go on.
I mean, I'm going to say Greg Odom.
Kyrie Irving worked out alright, so did LeBron James. So I actually want to bring up Kyrie Irving very quickly. Kyrie Irving forcibly manipulated his way out of Cleveland. He went as far as saying, I have an injury that I'm willing to play through unless you guys choose not to trade me, and then I will elect to have surgery and ruin the season, knowing, like in Cleveland, with LeBron on a 1-and-1 every time he re-upped his contract, Kyrie knew the impact that having that surgery would have on that Cleveland team, and it would be felt to a greater degree than that threat would have been anywhere else. However, Kyrie forced his way out of Cleveland. Kyrie, I know, it was hard for me to get that thought
No,
out.
like my dick's getting hard listening to this story. It's so amazing.
Kyrie, I'm getting to the point.
No, you don't need to. Like, it's already, just massage it.
Kyrie
This is
forced his way out of
fantastic.
Cleveland, right? And have you heard a mumble about him being a problem in the locker room since in Boston?
Have you? Never. No, Uncle Drew is a badass. All right.
Yeah, I love him.
No, he's
And I believe anybody that I know, because I've obviously told people from Cleveland to listen to this and watch this podcast, they're going to stop listening the more we get into my opinion of LeBron James and the Cavs. But the Cavs should have moved off of LeBron James when Kyrie Irving was unhappy. They should have retained Kyrie. Kyrie was there and willing to be a Cavalier before LeBron James decided that he needed to fix his image and go back to Cleveland. And they pushed Kyrie to the wayside, and every decision that was made thereafter undermined the respect that Kyrie Irving deserved for what he was becoming as an NBA player. So we should.
Do you know who gave him that respect?
Jimmy Buckets?
Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge gave him that respect. And
Everybody would have been willing to give him that respect.
Absolutely. It was the perfect storm for Cleveland.
The insult to injury was how little we got back.
Yeah. No.
The IT.
The IT. Yeah. An injured IT.
But this is going to be a very unpopular opinion with people in Cleveland. I've already
lost a few friends
suggested
over
it and been attacked, but the Cavs should have moved off of LeBron when Kyrie gave them the ultimatum and I believe that Kyrie would still be a Cavalier right now. And
And
we'd be in a much better position.
It's not too far-fetched.
Be in a much better position moving forward than the 10 to 15 year purgatory that we're going to be in now. So
Because of one man.
Who, Tristan Thompson?
Yeah. Exactly.
and I argue, maybe you guys will appreciate this. I kind of hope you will. This is an argument that I try to make that falls on deaf ears almost exclusively. People ask me if once I get so far down the rabbit hole of the problem that LeBron created for the Cavs, which is the same problem he created for the Miami Heat, that they still find themselves dealing with, would I go back and trade that title that LeBron brought to Cleveland? Would I give it up, considering how much I resent him for the way that he controlled the situation and took advantage and devoured all our resources? I personally would, as far as I'm concerned, he can take that title with him. Because in his mind, it's his title anyways. In his mind, that's not a Cleveland Cavs title. He'll say all that to be the good guy, to repair his villainous image that he created making the decision. But
Like, at the end of that game, it looked like it was Kyrie's title.
I agree with you. And I believe if I had to do it all over again, knowing the way that things shook out, and here's why. Here's why I would give that title away. Let LeBron have that title. Because we, the people of Cleveland, celebrate that title for a very specific reason and refuse to acknowledge. It's kind of like if you've been battered by your significant other, that person often has a very skewed outlook on who's to blame and what the abusee deserved and what they did to deserve what they got. Cleveland has been so battered and bruised for so long that the people of Cleveland believe that we should have. The people
I can already see the emails coming in about this analogy.
The people of Cleveland believe. The people of Cleveland believe. Who's going to email us? The two people that are listening. The people of Cleveland believe that that it was okay for us to sell our soul for that one title, and everything fell apart. The true hero to me was and still should be Kyrie.
He is.
And he's no longer in a Cavs uniform. And the people of Cleveland refuse to acknowledge the way that LeBron James took advantage of our fandom to repair his image. All they see is that one title. In all these decades, we finally got a title. Well, now there's nobody in the arena anymore. And most of those people that will argue that it was worth everything we sacrificed will not put on another Cavs jersey, will not buy another Cavs ticket until they show those people something again. Those were never fans to begin with. They weren't there in the arena before LeBron came back. So those people, they can go to LA with him as far as I'm concerned.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take. I tell you what, man, if I could get the Texans a Super Bowl, I'd give up some stuff. I would be willing to trade
I hear that.
some mediocre
Would
days.
you, if you saw the forest for the trees and if you saw the way that they had to construct the roster, and it meant that when the centerpiece of the roster inevitably frivolously decided to leave again,
I
that you're looking at decades of purgatory.
You might never see another championship in your life.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
In 40 years, 50 years.
Dan Marino goes to the Super Bowl his rookie season, doesn't sniff the Super Bowl the rest of his career. You don't know.
You take that
You can be the Texans last season and win 3-4 games because people got injured, or you could be the Texans this season and go on a 10-game win or 9-game winning streak because you have relatively few injuries, right? There's a lot more that goes into it than one player or two player or three player. Maybe it's accentuated in the NBA where you have a smaller roster.
It's not maybe, it most
right?
definitely is.
But yeah, to take the championship today over what's not the guaranteed championship today over what's not guaranteed tomorrow, I would take that every single day. And twice on Super Bowl Sunday.
I feel like the people of Cleveland got completely taken for a ride.
Absolutely.
They did.
And LeBron James got himself a title.
Absolutely. and we paid a fuck ton of money to Kelvin Cato, and we had Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady, and those guys made a lot of money and didn't do shit for us. We got no titles for those experiences. Your team got decimated in the end. You got saddled with some shitty contracts, but those contracts are for people who brought you a title, right? Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, them dudes were on that team too. They also brought you that title. Should they still be paid like it today? No, probably not. But
could Griffin have not constructed a better, more sustainable roster had LeBron not come back? Who's to say that the Cavs weren't one other player away with Kyrie, who often was the best player on the court during that championship season. He's the real, to me, again.
I mean, you're talking about someone who from day one of Pee Wee basketball was the second coming of
I hear you.
So you can't tell me.
There's a drop. I know that's the image
can't-
maintenance, manicuring his image right there.
Look,
There's a segment on Cleveland Sports Radio where he'll drop it almost every day. Anytime LeBron comes up, he does.
the Cleveland.
It goes Cleveland, and then it cuts immediately to Randy Newman. I love LA, and that's the thing. Cleveland, I love LA, and it's so funny because it's so true. He's shown the Lakers in half a season more respect than he ever showed the Cavaliers organization in his entire tenure there, and I think that we also have the right to resent him for that and to feel like, why did he not respect us in that same fashion?
But look, I mean, okay,
he took advantage of us, man.
You say that
I wish Kyrie was still
the
a
best
Cav.
player on the court, even when he was on the court with LeBron. Kyrie couldn't go to the Lakers and have the same ragtag group of guys in the position that LeBron has them in. Right? They don't have the same game. They don't have the same skill set on the court. They complemented each other well, and Kyrie had range to do things that he's never going to be able to really do again unless he has 4 other guys that have good skill sets the way it was when he was with LeBron. Right? The way the game is played when LeBron is on the court, from the first minute I saw that man in a professional uniform, the tempo changes, the speed of the game changes. He's the quarterback and the linebacker at the same time on the court, playing both ends of the field.
The last 10 minutes of every show is just going to be a therapist lesson. It's going to be 10 minutes of Turk venting about his... what could have been.
I don't think it's referred to as a therapist lesson, but we can talk about that after we stop recording.
All right, what do you guys got on tap for next week?
I agree. I want to argue with you and say that he's not the best player in the game, but he is.
He is.
However,
it's not an argument.
What did we at what cost did we get that title? And at the end of the day, people are going to hate a lot of what I said. We paid too much for that title.
That's fair.
I would rather Kyrie be in a Cavaliers jersey tonight when they beat Indiana by 20 instead of barely beat them by 1.
That's legit and totally fair. And I would welcome LeBron James and his title and his team decimating way for a championship.
Even one, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
One is all you
Well,
need.
you got your World Series, and I hope you guys choke on it.
Yeah. We didn't even get to Brantley this week, but next week
We're not going to talk. I'm not ready to talk about that, anyways.
Baseball.
Baseball's
Well, we
heating
know
up
we
soon. Next
most
week,
definitely can talk about.
I definitely want us to talk about it's bowl season, so we got to bring up some bowl games next week.
We got to talk about Brantley to Houston.
Yeah, Brantley to Houston is a massive move.
I was a casual Houston fan for the whole time I lived here, until the team became a serious, and then more than just a threat. They became the father of my baseball team. So my casual fandom evaporated about 2.5 years ago, and this Michael Brantley to Houston trade has escalated my disdain for the Astros into full-blown hatred. To have to see Michael Brantley, you will not see me at any Astros game.
I love it.
Would it be fair to call you Pedro Martinez, referring to the Yankees as their daddy? Or?
No.
No.
Example, hitting good pitches. Matsuo did it earlier in the game too.
Yeah, you want to hold the speaker of your phone by the.
Good pitches.
You call them bitches,
You know,
too?
what can I say? Just stick
Beaches.
my heart
I
and
know.
Beaches.
call the Yankees my daddies.
My daddies?
That's it. That's
Was
all
that
it is.
Zimmer that said that to him?
No, that's Pedro.
That was Pedro.
Who called the Yankees his daddy?
Pedro called the Yankees his daddy. In a
His
press
daddies.
conference.
I think.
Daddies.
No, I think you must. Okay. All right. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna-
that-
Who asked him the question?
Pedro pitched against the Yankees in the playoffs. They beat him again. And so he said, I guess you just gotta call the Yankees my daddies.
I thought he said someone else.
Like the Yankees is that. Like the
I
Yankees
got
my
no. I
daddy.
got you.
All right, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bowl week.
Bowl
I
mania.
gotta be
Bowl mania. Get
honest,
ready.
I there's nothing I hate more than college sports.
Okay, fair
I don't.
enough.
I dislike college sports. A great deal. So
All right. Well, there's probably one of
we'll
the
gloss
two
over.
listeners that might.
we'll
We
gloss
don't have to go over all 1,842 games, but we can just go over a couple of them.
The bowl week is Degenerate Gambler Central. If you have money on Appalachian State or in a game that
Then you're
features
probably happy
Appalachian
right now
State,
because you're a
if you-
winner.
then you really need to.
It's very likely if you have money on Appalachian State right now that you're in a group text with Drew, Andy, Trey, and myself.
I'm not gonna.
Very
I'm not
likely to fairly certain.
Gonna, I'm not gonna judge you if you have money on Appalachian State. I'm just gonna
To
look
your
at
face.
I'm just gonna look at you in the corner of my eye.
In my
I'm
head,
just gonna
I'm
post something on
in my head,
Facebook
I'm gonna judge you.
anonymously.
All right, so next week we're going to talk about Brantley to the Astros. We're going to talk about the eventual Odell Beckham to the Browns trade. We're going to talk about playoff seeding in the NFL.
Yeah, I think normally receivers get traded from the Browns, not to the Browns.
Touche.
Yeah, but it's a new.
So I don't know how we're gonna work
It's a
that
new
one
day.
out.
Sashi
Donovan
Brown.
Day. So,
Oh wait, no more Sashi, huh?
yeah, we traded him.
We
for-
traded him.
You traded Sashi?
See, so Sashi, they traded
Yeah.
Sashi for Odell Beckham.
I think I remember a couple years ago there was a conversation about how phenomenal Sashi was.
I still
Yeah.
believe he's built the foundation that the team is
Absolutely, you
being
know
built
what?
on right
And
now.
honestly,
You lay a foundation to build
they're
upon.
scary. I mean,
You don't
they're
build a foundation.
eventually going to be a scary team.
They certainly do have the pieces in place. I'll tell you that. Baker's the real deal.
They-
But
they-
at
they
the end of the
need a
day, they're the
receiver.
Browns,
They need a receiver.
and
It'd be nice if
it's
they
our
had, like,
job to disrespect them.
They should.
who's our.
This nation, this great nation of ours.
If they had a receiver like.
We like that. we have a guy playing quarterback right now that loves. That's like fuel.
If they had a big physical
fire.
receiver in the middle of the field, like a I don't know, like a Josh Gordon type, or a burner like Callaway or something, I don't know, something like that, they might be someone worth.
We do have Callaway, so Josh Gordon.
Coleman.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Burner like Coleman.
Corey Coleman cares more about his shoes than catching the football. Josh Gordon cares more about himself, his Instagram, and
So,
God knows what else. Then he's been super
Did you
effective in New
hear-
England.
Did you
He
hear this?
definitely was a difference
He's a
maker last night.
Rastafari.
They put his day
Definitely
one. They
difference
put
maker.
his locker directly next to Tom Brady. He gets to his very first practice at New England.
Which
right next to
explains
Tom
the one catch for 12 yards last night. That's
Look,
that's
he
chemistry
said
right
that
there.
it's changed his life. So that's all. I'm just gonna leave that there.
I
Good
mean,
for him,
what
by
is-
the way.
Is Giselle introducing him to angels or what? I mean, because that'll change your life.
Look, would you rather be friends with Tom Brady or a rap sheet of like 50 other quarterbacks?
I thought you were going to
that
say
have come and
Johnny
gone?
Manziel, and I was going to say Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, no, Johnny
Yeah, I'd rather
gets
be
his.
friends
right?
with Johnny
Right.
Manziel,
Yeah.
but I would probably rather. Tom Brady's got to be one of the most unbearable human beings to be around. on
Oh,
Earth.
come on, man.
I
Why
would
you
not
say
wanna be
so- why would
friends
you
with
say
him.
something like that?
TB12 has his own regimen, his own book, his own brand, his. Look, we won't get into this now, but we'll save it for next week. I do want to talk about the TB12 brand with you. Maybe we can do that off the air.
I believe
Let me ask
Tom
you
Brady's one of the most unbearable human beings to be
this.
around.
Let me ask
on
you. Let
planet
me
Earth.
ask you this: Bridget Monahan or Giselle Bundchen?
I'd probably Giselle.
Really?
I think Giselle probably today, but I probably would have said Bridget.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't know. Now we're in their primes. We're just
She's,
talking today. Even in
now-
Giselle's
even now,
prime.
Bridget's pretty.
All right, well, I got one for you real quick. Bill Belichick or Bill Bellamy?
Is this
Bellamy,
How to Want to Be a
Bellamy.
Player, Bellamy, or
or MTV
Is
VJ
this-
Bell?
Is this, wait, are we talking about Craig's Dad and Friday? Or are we talking about are we talking about mushroom soup from Boomerang? What are we talking about?
is this the Badussi scene with Bernie Mac, or
Oh man.
Oh, what's that actor's name that plays Craig's Dad on Friday? Do you remember he's Eddie Murphy's dad or David
Boomerang.
Alan Greer's dad or whatever in Boomerang, and he wears that. He's got the mushroom.
Yeah, the belt coordinates.
He's got a coordinate. He's got the everything's mush. You got to coordinate. Yeah. It's contagious, man. Coordination's contagious, man. It's contagious, bro.
so bowl weeks, Brantley trades.
Bowl weeks, baseball, and we'll wrap up the football stuff.
Yeah, it's the end of the year. That's
We're
the end
supposed
of
to
the year,
talk for an hour. I think we've talked for about an hour and 97 minutes.
We've talked for 1 hour and 50 minutes.
boys.
It's
150.
too long.
It's all right. We'll trim it down. We'll
Trim out every part where I open my mouth, and then I think you guys got something.
get it down to 50 minutes.
I think I coughed a couple times.
Couple coughs.
You trim me out, and I think you're down to a good, like a solid
Trimming.
45
We have a
minutes.
bathroom break in
Just
the
a
middle.
little hedging.
Trim.
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 All right, gentlemen.
Trim,
It's
trim
been
and
real.
root.
It's been fun. It's been real fun. We'll be speaking with y'all again next week.